Angela Rayner's political brand has long rested on the story of authenticity, a working class voice who understands the pressures of ordinary people. Yet she now finds herself caught in a tangle of tax irregularities that threatens not only her own standing but also Sir Keir Starmer's promise of a cleaner government. The latest controversy concerns her grace and favour flat in Admiralty House. As Housing Secretary, Rayner was allocated this Whitehall apartment. In April, Westminster City Council introduced a council tax premium on second homes. That meant the bill on her official flat doubled from just over £2,000 to more than £4,000. Here's the central issue. Westminster City Council says it was not told this was her second home until early May, yet the premium applied from April the 1st. A payment was then made in late July, more than 3 months after the charge became liable, and that payment was only triggered once Conservative MPs began asking awkward parliamentary questions. During April and May, ministers repeatedly told Parliament that Rayner's council tax obligations had been fully discharged. Those assertions now look inaccurate. The Conservatives argue Parliament was misled. At the very least, the facts changed and nobody corrected the record. Was Rayner personally responsible? Her team insists that the government pays council tax on official residences and that this has always been the case under successive governments. Technically correct, yet the Ministerial code is clear. Where a minister has an official residence, they must ensure that all personal tax liabilities are properly discharged. They must see that it is done. In this instance, the surcharge was introduced by the same department that Rayner led, and she was the cabinet minister in charge of council tax policy. Ignorance would be an extraordinary defence. This follows the earlier debacle over a private home in Hove and the £40,000 stamp duty underpayment that forced her resignation as Deputy Prime Minister. It was framed as an administrative error. Now a second tax dispute has emerged in the space of months. Again, an administrative error? The pattern matters. The political context makes this far more combustible. Council tax bills are rising sharply across England. Labour promised to freeze, yet families now face over £1,000 of additional cost over this Parliament. At the same time, Labour has unveiled a new levy targeting family homes. People are now paying more, while a former deputy leader is accused of paying less than she should. Kevin Hollinrake, the Conservative Party chairman, has seized on this. He declares there's no route back into government for Angela Rayner. He demands she repay her £17,000 ministerial severance. It's an opportunistic attack on politics, certainly, but it lands because the vulnerabilities are real. Starmer pledged integrity. He expelled MPs over far smaller ethical controversies when rebuilding Labour's reputation, yet Rayner was his most loyal political partner. The party knows that losing her permanently would fracture the coalition that delivered power, so every decision about Rayner has become a calculation, a loyalty test, a risk management exercise. Meanwhile, Rayner's own allies have begun to show their frustration with the leadership. On workers' rights, they insist she never would have permitted the watering down of the pledge to protect employees from unfair dismissal from day one. Rayner has not spoken publicly against Starmer. She remains disciplined, but the message from her supporters is obvious. The movement she once led is drifting from the promises she was the face of. The situation is destabilising because it combines three explosive elements: questions of personal integrity, accusations of misleading Parliament, and ideological resentment brewing inside Labour's ranks. If Rayner attempts to return to cabinet, critics will say she brings baggage. But leave her on the backbenches and she becomes the rallying point for trade union pressure and left-wing discontent. The danger is that this story reinforces a wider narrative. A government that promised cleanliness and competence instead finds itself entangled in tax mistakes, fiscal confusion and political U-turns. This is not the image Starmer wants emerging before the next local and mayoral elections. Rayner's defenders argue that she did everything required of her, that the Government Property Agency handled the council tax as soon as the invoice arrived. If that's so, the remedy is transparency. Publish the correspondence, clarify the timeline, correct any parliamentary statement that doesn't reflect the full record. Because if this drags on, the perception of improvised explanations will harden into a presumption of guilt. Angela Rayner rose by convincing people that she was on their side. Tax controversies, however technical, erode that trust. The principle is simple. Those who write the rules must be seen to live by them. Remember Boris's cake. If Labour forgets that, the consequences will be political and personal. And that is about more than one overdue bill. It's a test of character, consistency and credibility at the top of government, and it has not yet reached its final scene.